Welcome to our open book. And I do mean everybody. We're surrounded by people now. Diana Lynch, Joan Denny, Mary Glazer, Klaatu, Forever, Rhonda Scott Merrick, John O'Hara, Mr. Dickens, Catherine Capel, Carla Atkinson, John Mahoney, also Elise Madeleine, Patricia Jenkins.
I'm moving the I'm moving the camera a little bit so you can't see that I haven't yet put away any of our holiday decorations.
Darling, it's not March yet.
True.
All right, so I lot going on now, obviously. I think it's very good, whatever your politics, every now and then to reread from George Orwell's Politics in the English Language. Famous essay, very influential on me. He wrote in 1946. So a kind of anniversary this year. I'm going to read from it.
Oh, hello, Daisy. Daisy wants to be on my lap. Okay, come on
What
up.
about politics in the French language, huh?
Daisy always loves to be part of Open Book.
So let me read from what Orwell said. Most people who bother with the matter at all would admit that the English language is in a bad way, but it is generally assumed that we cannot, by conscious action, do anything about it. Our civilization is decadent and our language, so the argument runs, must inevitably share in the general collapse. It follows that any struggle against the abuse of language is a sentimental archaism, like preferring candles to electric light or hansom cabs to aeroplanes. Underneath this lies the half-conscious belief that the language is a natural growth and not an instrument which we can shape for our own purposes. Now it is clear that the decline of a language must ultimately have political and economic causes. It is not due simply to the bad influence of this or that individual writer. An effect can become a cause, reinforcing the original cause and producing the same effect. A man may take to drink because he feels himself to be a failure and then fail all the more completely because he drinks. It is rather the same thing that is happening to the English language. It becomes ugly and inaccurate because our thoughts are foolish. But the slovenliness of our language makes it easier for us to have foolish thoughts. The point is that the process is reversible. Modern English, especially written English, is full of bad habits, which spread by imitation and which can be avoided if one is willing to take the necessary trouble. If one gets rid of these habits, one can think more clearly, and to think clearly is a necessary first step toward political regeneration. That the fight against bad English is not frivolous and is not the exclusive concern of professional writers. Then he offers some specimens of the English language that he thinks, this is 1946, but think about it now too. Dying metaphors. A newly invented metaphor assists thought by evoking a visual image, while on the other hand, a metaphor which is technically dead has in effect reverted to being an ordinary word and can generally be used without loss of vividness. But in between these two classes, there is a huge dump of worn-out metaphors which have lost all evocative power and are merely used because they save people the trouble of inventing phrases for themselves. Examples are ring the changes on, take up the cudgels for, toe the line, ride roughshod over, stand shoulder to shoulder with, play into the hands of, no axe to grind, grist to the mill, fishing in troubled waters, on the order of the day, Achilles' heel, swan song, hotbed. Many of these are used without knowledge of their meaning. What is a riff, for instance, and incompatible metaphors are frequently mixed. A sure sign that the writer is not interested in what he is saying. Some metaphors now current have been twisted out of their original meaning without those who use them even being aware. For example, toe the line, T-O-E, is sometimes written as toe the line, T-O-W. Another example is the hammer and the anvil. Not always used with the implication that the anvil gets the worst of it. In real life, it's usually the anvil that breaks the hammer. Never the other way around. A writer who stopped to think what he was saying would avoid perverting the original phrase. Operators, or verbal false limbs. These save the trouble of picking out appropriate verbs and nouns at the same time pad each sentence with extra syllables to give it the appearance of symmetry. This is my favorite part. Characteristic phrases are render inoperative, militate against, prove unacceptable, make contact with, be subject to, give rise to, give grounds for, have the effect of, play a leading part or role in, make itself felt, take effect, exhibit a tendency to serve the purpose of, etc. The keynote is the elimination of simple verbs. Instead of being a single word, such as break, stop, spoil, mend, kill, a verb becomes a phrase made up of a noun and an adjective tacked on to some general purpose verb, such as prove, serve, form, play, render. In addition, passive voice is used wherever possible, used in preference to the active, and noun constructions are used instead of gerunds.
Can you give more examples?
Gives one right here, by examination instead of examining. The range of verbs is further cut down by the means of the IZE and D formations, and banal statements are given an appearance of profundity by means of the not unformation. Simple conjunctions and prepositions are replaced by such phrases as with respect to, having regard to, the fact that, by dint of, in view of, in the interest of, on the hypotheses that, and the ends of sentences are saved from anticlimax by such resounding commonplaces as greatly to be desired, cannot be left out on account of, a development to be expected in the near future, deserving of serious consideration, brought to a satisfactory conclusion, and so on and so forth.
I see the influence on your writing.
Pretentious diction. What? Words like phenomenon, element, individual, as a noun, objective, categorical, effective, virtual, basic, primary, promote, constitute, exhibit, exploit, utilize, eliminate, liquidate, are used to dress up simple statements and give an air of scientific impartiality to biased judgments. I would add, go on, literal, community, inflection point. Adjectives like epic-making, epic, historic, unforgettable, I would add, iconic.
Good.
Triumphant, age-old, inevitable, inexorable, veritable. I would also add existential. There is no real need for any of the hundreds of foreign phrases now current in English. Bad writers, especially scientific, political, and sociological writers, are nearly always haunted by the notion that Latin or Greek words are grander than Saxon ones.
I would maintain that's true.
Yeah. He didn't mean you, darling. And unnecessary words like expedite, ameliorate, predict, extraneous, deracinated, clandestine, and hundreds of others constantly gain ground. Now, here's one of his most famous sections. He says, I am going to translate a passage of good English into modern English of the worst sort. Ready?
Yes.
Here's a well-known verse from Ecclesiastes. I returned and saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the strong, neither yet bread to the wise, nor yet riches to men of understanding, nor yet favor to men of skill. But time and chance happeneth to them all. Want to hear the modern English version?
Mm-hmm.
And this, of course, is written 70 years ago. Ready? 80 years ago.
Still modern.
He says, here it is in modern English. Objective consideration of contemporary phenomenon compels the conclusion that success or failure in competitive activities exhibits no tendency to be commensurate with innate capacity, but that a considerable element of the unpredictable must invariably be taken into account.
Obfuscating.
Orwell says that is a parody, but not a very good one. The whole tendency of modern prose is away from concreteness. He goes on to say, when you're composing in a hurry, when you're dictating to a stenographer, for instance, or making a public speech, it's natural to fall into a pretentious Latinized style. Tags like a consideration which we would do well to bear in mind or a conclusion to which all of us would readily assent will save many a sentence from coming down with a bump. By using stale metaphors, similes, and idioms, you save much mental effort at the cost of leaving your meaning vague, not only for your reader, but for yourself. In our time, it is broadly true that political writing is bad writing. It's a very important section. The political language has to consist largely of euphemism, question-begging, and sheer, cloudy vagueness. Defenseless villages are bombarded from the air, the inhabitants driven out into the countryside, the cattle machine gunned, the huts set on fire with incendiary bullets. This is called pacification. Millions of peasants are robbed of their farms and set trudging along the roads with no more than they can carry. This is called transfer of population or rectification of frontiers. People are imprisoned for years without trial or shot in the back of the neck or sent to die of scurvy in Arctic lumber camps. This is called elimination of unreliable elements. Such phraseology is needed if one wants to name things without calling up mental pictures of them. Consider, for instance, some comfortable English professor defending Russian totalitarianism. Cannot say outright, I believe in killing off your opponents. Therefore, he will say something like this. Freely conceding that the Soviet regime exhibits certain features which the humanitarian may be declined to deplore, we must, I think, agree that a certain curtailment of the right to political opposition is an unavoidable commentant of transitional periods, and that the rigors which the Russian people have been called upon to undergo have been amply justified in the sphere of concrete achievement. This inflated style is itself a kind of euphemism. Massive Latin words fall upon the facts like soft snow. God, I love that phrase. Blurring the outlines and covering up all the details. The great enemy of clear language is insincerity. Now he has his famous rules, which I really
Which you
do
live by,
I
yes.
love these rules.
1, never use a metaphor, simile, or other figure of speech which you are used to seeing in print. 2, never use a long word where a short one will do. 3, if it is possible to cut a word out, always cut it out. 4, never use the passive where you can use the active. 5, never use a foreign phrase, a scientific word, or a jargon word if you can think of an everyday English equivalent. And then 6, break any of these rules sooner than say anything outright barbarous. These rules sound elementary, and so they are, but they demand a deep change of attitude in anyone who has grown used to writing in the style now fashionable. Political language, and with variations, this is true of all political parties from conservatives to anarchists, is designed to make lies sound truthful and murder respectable, and to give an appearance of solidity to pure win. One cannot change this all in a moment, but one can at least change one's own habits. And from time to time, one can even, if one jeers loudly enough, send some worn-out and useless phrase, some Achilles heel, hotbed, melting pot, acid test.
Curated,
right, curated, veritable inferno, existential, or other lump of verbal refuse into the dustbin where it belongs.
Oh, how wonderful.
George Orwell, Politics in the English Language. What a classic. So, thanks very much for being with us tonight on our open book. We have a guest tomorrow, right?
We do. A very exciting historical fiction novel.
Very exciting historical fiction novel.
I'm sorry, George Orwell, for saying very.
Is what?
For saying very.
Oh, that's
I knew better.
He doesn't expect you to get it all at once. So thanks very much for being with us on an open book. We'll see you later. Take care. Bye-bye.